Friends, welcome to episode number 356 of the Anxiety Guide podcast. Great to have you listening to this podcast episode. If you want to learn more about any of my anxiety recovery programs, head over to theanxietyguide.com today and start your healing journey at theanxietyguide.com. And friends, lately we've been getting into the topic of inner child traps or inner child defense mechanisms. And today what we're going to be doing is we are going to learn a little bit more about the inner child and the traps that the inner child places you in the hopes that you don't continue your journey towards change. Remember, the inner child wants to continue running the self-punishment programs within because it believes it's the safest way to approach life. So many times, even when somebody has the advice from somebody else that says you have to love yourself, well, what does love really mean to the inner child? What did love mean between conception and the age of about 6? What did it mean? Well, it meant whatever you saw and whatever you interpreted from your authority figures and your parents. So later on in life, when somebody says, you got to love yourself more, unconsciously what that really means to a person suffering or still running those programs is you have to continue being hard on yourself. You have to continue being critical towards yourself and the world. You have to continue seeing everything as a threat. Because that was the program that started so early on. Now, traps. Let's talk about these inner child traps. Traps that look to pull you back into the subconscious self-punishment program for the sake of staying in line with the blueprint that the inner child has towards who it believes you are and how safe the world is. Remember, we are here to change the blueprint. We are here to update our core belief systems. A self-punishment program is like a computer software that can't be deleted and replaced by the same critical mind that perpetuates the fear and anxiety in the first place. It's the critical mind that takes orders from your inner child, which wants you to believe in false ideas based on less than a handful of early life experiences. Now, if you get the chance, I want you to listen to that again. In fact, forget that. I'm going to repeat it again. It's the critical mind that takes orders from your inner child, which wants you to believe in false ideas, fear, based on less than a handful of early life experiences. This is a more than anxiety moment, my friends, because what do we always say? We say that the most important relationship that you have to rebuild is the one between you and your inner child, meaning you, your updated belief systems and perceptions around yourself and the world, and the initial feelings that you experience, and the traps that are set by the inner child. Trap number 1, does this happen to you? The inner child sets this trap, and it is keeping you believing that the answer lies in calmness, which is only a cover-up to suppression. True healing lies in expression, perceptual shifts, and true forgiveness. What a trap. The inner child says, the answer is in you looking to calm yourself. So what happens? You calm yourself, and maybe the symptoms disappear, maybe they don't, right? But through calming ourselves, we think that the solution lies within that exercise to calm ourselves, when in fact, that's just a trap by the inner child, right? How many times have you tried to calm yourself down only to find yourself more anxious just a few hours later or minutes, right? So true healing lies in expression, right? Lies in expression. And expression comes in many different forms, okay? Trap number 2. Ooh, this one's important. The inner child sets trap number 2, which is rejecting compliments to yourself, by yourself, and others. Ooh. I mean, how many times have you been complimented only to say, yeah. What about you? I love you. Not me. I love you. And I love this part of you and that part of you. How many times have you turned the conversation around back onto the other person once you've gotten a compliment? That's another trap by the inner child. Compliments, once you believe in them and take them in at a heart level, potentially can lead to change. And change to the inner child means death. Okay, that's why it's so opportunistic in keeping you within those self-punishment programs and anxiety. Powerful stuff. So once we recognize these traps, right, rejecting compliments to yourself, by yourself, and others, I mean, how many times have you looked in the mirror and said, I am beautiful and I love myself unconditionally? How many times have you done that only to feel the complete opposite of what you've been saying? Over and over, right? So yes, you've got this upgraded idea about yourself, but the inner child says, no, not really, right? So the more we recognize that these are the traps, right, the more we can understand that we can communicate with the inner child in certain ways to change its perceptions over us and the world. Inner child trap number 3, obsessing over your bodily anxiety symptoms, right? Hello, former health anxiety sufferer here, darkest days of my life, right? I don't know about you, but the more we obsess over these bodily anxiety symptoms and perceive them as physical threats, the more anxious we are. The more anxious we are, the more aligned we are with the self-punishment program that lies within the subconscious mind, right? So again, obsessing over your bodily anxiety symptoms, I mean, rationally we understand that we're wasting our time, right? We know that we're wasting our time, our focus, our energy on this idea. We know that rationally. But more often than not, because we haven't connected what we're doing and how we're perceiving to it being an inner child trap, we stay stuck, right? But now we can differentiate, my friends. Now we can differentiate. We can say, this is from my inner child, this is an old program, and this is from my higher self. Wow, that's powerful, right? This idea I will take action on. This feeling, since it's coming from my higher self, I will act on, right? You'll notice that a lot of higher self work comes down to stepping out of your comfort zones, right? And stepping into a place of expression of some kind, expressing words you never did, expressing the fact that you had anxiety all these months, expressing, putting yourself out there, feeling vulnerable, right? A lot of higher self work and moving in, transitioning to the higher self is connected to all this expression, right? Well, let's get into trap number 4, right? Trap number 4, believing that you must continue to mirror your parents' ways in some way. Ooh, inner child trap, huge trap, right? Because unconsciously we feel like if we don't mirror our parents in some way, more often worry, right? Then we don't love them and they won't love us. Therefore, we are detaching from family and family is everything. Let me tell you something. You don't have to like your family members. You don't have to spend time with your family members. You don't have to agree with your family members. You don't have to believe the same thing your family members believe. Okay? Because if it's not working from one generation to the next, Why the heck do we continue to believe the same things that they've always believed in? If it takes us down a route of fear, anxiety, worry being a safety net, right, and all these things, terrorizing, catastrophizing, why don't we do something different to stop this generational trauma that seems to be continuing from one generation to the next? Why don't we be the brave ones, the courageous ones that say, that's really not the way to approach life, and that's not the way to see ourselves either? It's interesting with the body, right? The body is not supposed to get sick. Understand that, right? The body is not supposed to feel sick. Okay? The body is supposed to go through this lifetime, and we are supposed to choose when we exit this lifetime. Right? I'm going a little bit in a different direction for a second, but this is the power that we have within us, that advertising companies out there, society wants to keep us from entering into, okay, this incredible capability that we have to become superhuman. So, trap number 4, believing that you must continue to mirror your parents in some way, which is connected to some kind of a value, right, that you don't want to break. Forget it. That's an inner child trap. You can believe something different than your parents believe. You can be different. You don't have to mirror them in any way. Okay? Trap number 5, final trap. The idea that unconditional love for yourself is impossible to achieve. Okay, so many anxiety sufferers out there, including me back in the day, used to look at unconditional love and go, that's a nice idea, right? And then you revert back to that perfectionism program that says, you better do something right now to feel a sense of value towards yourself in the world. That's called doership. We're leaving the world of doership. You can be lazy and have a tremendous amount of unconditional love for yourself because you've changed the definition of laziness. You understand? Right? For all these years, anxiety sufferers are stuck in a place of doership. Only when I do can I love myself and potentially be loved by others. More than anxiety moment right there, right? But what if you do what you need to do with a different mindset? What if you do it in a way where you say, whatever outcome comes from this thing that I'm doing isn't connected to the amount of value that I place on myself? What if that was the answer? I mean, can you imagine how your life would be different? Can you imagine how little pressure you would put on yourself to do things the right way and continue to do? I said do. Yeah, I did. But it's important to understand that you can meet with unconditional love for yourself if you just start becoming open to the idea once again, right? I can unconditionally love myself even if I don't achieve anything that I'm supposed to achieve from my parents' perspective or my old self. Okay? So you don't have to do anything to match unconditional love for yourself. Okay? These are inner child traps, my friends. I mean, once you recognize that these are inner child traps looking to keep you in a familiar place of certainty and safety, once you understand that, you can go, oh, there's a trap, right? And I'm not falling for that trap anymore because I know it's a trap, and it's coming from my inner child, which I no longer am going to be led by. This is so powerful. It's so powerful. I'm no longer going to be led by my initial feelings towards something. I no longer am going to be led by my initial perceptions over an experience. No. I'm going to think greater than that, and I'm going to feel greater than how I've been feeling. This is higher self-work, my friends. And this is where we go in my programs. A lot of people have been asking me lately, Dennis, which program do I do? Go ahead and start the Inner Circle program. The Inner Circle program contains everything that we need to get to the root causes of all the different disorders and labels that have been placed upon you. So if you're confused about any of those programs, do the Inner Circle program, theanxietyguy.com. But remember, my friends, that you are more than anxiety. Take a moment, go for a walk. Notice how, in which way, this podcast episode spoke to you, and I'll see you in the next episode. If you're enjoying this podcast, please give it a positive rate and review. I read each and every one of them, and I love them. As well, share this podcast with somebody who needs it out there. And let's help more people become more than anxiety. I love you all from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you very, very soon. Keep up the progress. You're doing amazing. Bye-bye.
The most powerful anxiety guidebooks on true anxiety recovery are now available on Amazon. Pick up Beyond Anxiety and F Coping, Start Healing, and supercharge your healing journey today. Also visit www.theanxietyguy.com to connect with Dennis and find the right online program for you. Remember, you are more than anxiety. See you in the next podcast episode.